Yo, peace to the planet. I'm really lucky. Got Adem Redzovic live and direct from Chicago with us. He is almost like a one-man institution for American Jiu-Jitsu, and it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for making time to be with me today and share your wisdom. How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it.
What have you been up to these days in the jujitsu world? And tell me about what's motivating and inspiring you these days as a teacher and a student.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to go to Bosnia in a couple days. I've been doing this annual jiu-jitsu camp where I get an opportunity to connect with students from all corners of the world, and I get a chance to see them meet each other sometimes for the first time, and
Yeah.
some of them they're experiencing a new culture for the first time. So it's become something that just kind of helps manage, maintain, and kind of reinvest in relationships. So I'm super excited about it. That's kind of at the forefront of my mind right now, just getting ready for that trip.
That's cool. Who do you have coming out and who have you had in the past? And break it down more. It sounds really amazing.
Yeah, in the past, I think this is number four, the fourth annual. I've had guest instructors in the past, like Clark Gracie.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of my black belts, like this year, I got Amir Dadovich, who's got his own school in Atlanta, Georgia, who's coached to a lot of professional athletes, and he'll
Oh,
be
that's
joining me. Yeah, super high level striker and great grappler. So another person from Bosnia. So um, yeah, it's always a good time. We go between usually like Sarajevo, which is the capital city,
right.
and Mostar, which is another popular city in Bosnia. And every year we're going between those two cities and doing some historic sightseeing, seeing where the First World War started.
Yeah.
You can see the exact spot where
Uh,
that parked, and so it's a great time. Hopefully, I can get you there one day when you're.
Man, God willing, man, I would really love that, especially after talking to you for so many years about different things in and around Bosnia. It would be a beautiful thing. It would be an honor for me, absolutely. Now,
Mhm.
you started jujitsu in what year and where were you living?
So I think I took my first class, my first official class. I had I have an older brother that got started a year or so before me, so he would like use me to practice moves on unofficially. I started through that
Yeah.
uh, way, but I think I took my first class. It was out of a high school wrestling room. That was like 1999.
Okay.
1999 or yeah, I think 1999. And yeah, here we are, what, 26 years later, something like that.
I mean, that's unbelievable, man. I love it. I love it. Were you now you were the first American GB school? And how did that happen? That's such a cool, crazy, unsuspecting scenario. Like how did that pan out?
Yeah, so in it was in the context of we were a part of the Gracie Torrance affiliate program.
Okay.
So the original group was connected with Hoist and Horian
Yeah.
and Kaike.
Yeah,
And
Kaike.
yeah, and Kaike was going through his own transition. He was the head instructor at the Gracie Torrance School,
Lawrence.
but he decided to go his own way. And in the midst of all this, you know, we needed more support in Chicago. We had just blue belts teaching. We didn't have anything higher than that. So we would go back and forth to California to train. And um, in the midst of all that, shortly after Kaique left the Gracie Torrance Academy, my brother Eddie went to Brazil
Mm,
and did the Gracie. what's it called? Like it was a camp for people from all over the world to stay in the house.
Oh, I
Uh,
remember when they used to do that. Yeah, I don't remember what that was called, but I do remember
yeah, I
that.
think it's just Gracie Camp. I think
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah,
it burnt down the
yeah, yeah,
place.
yeah. I think
But
you're
yeah,
right.
through the camp, he met Marcio Fitosa, Carlos Gracie Jr., and then that started the process of like when he would come back to from his trips, I would typically go, or we will have other students that would just go back and forth, and we would start to bring some of the Baja guys to Chicago. It was a
Mhm.
kind of a shock for us to see, from coming from Chicago where we just have blue belts now, and at the Gracie Baja, the original Gracie Baja back in the day, you had like
Right.
100, black belts, it seemed like, on the mats at the same time,
Yeah.
and the best of the best. So the relationship with Carlos Jr. started there, and that quickly developed into him, um, you know, pretty much offering us to be that first Gracie Baja American school.
Yeah, American. Yeah.
Actually, there was a Gracie Baja in America. I think it was Eduardo de Lima in Tampa. So technically, there was already a Gracie Baja school, but this is like the first Americans, I guess, to
Yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah. That was like yeah, 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 American rooted, right? Now, what do you remember about Carlos Gracie Jr. back then, right? And what do you attribute to his like when I look at him and when I think of him, um, he kind of reminds me of like Steve Jobs. Like he saw jujitsu from a 10,000 mile up vision that a lot of people just didn't have. Like, would you say that that's accurate, or would you say like it was kind of but different? Like, kind of tell me like what you observed about him, because I mean, obviously he's still alive, he's still doing all kinds of great things, but like I'm interested in those years, about what the training was like and what the mindsets and stuff were like. Just anything you could share.
Yeah, he's you know, I'm I love the Gracie family. They all have unique personalities, and yeah, yeah. There's so many funny stories that come to mind, and um, so when I perceive him as a great storyteller, someone
Hmm.
funny, and I remember the first time I visited the IBJJF was essentially like a closet. It was like a, you know, 8 by 8 room filled with gis. It was just
In
getting,
Brazil?
yeah, this was in Brazil. It was like behind the Gracie Baja, and down the street there was like the Gracie magazine that I'm forgetting who was, Luca was running.
Yeah, yeah, Luca Atala.
Yeah, and so there was so many different projects that were taking on a life of their own, like Gracie Baja Wear, the gi
Yeah,
company.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Gracie Baja itself became franchise, and Gracie Magazine needs its own. Like there's but he's at the top of it all, kind of empowering leaders to take on these opportunities. So one of the things that stands out is like visionary, definitely
Yeah,
someone who had a vision, and then also had to deal with resistance. That was something that stood out to me. Like even though, like, I'm not a part of Gracie Baja. When they became franchised in America, that was a time where I just decided, like, this is just not meant to be. But
yeah,
with that said, like, there's no hard feelings, and I respect what they were able to accomplish, and it's inspirational too. Like, just to understand that if you're going to have your vision play out, you're going to have to um, deal with change. Humans don't like change. You're going to have
mhm,
resistance to change, and
mhm,
but if you're going to see your vision through, you're going to have to go through some of that. So that's what I remember
right.
seeing and being a part of, and it's something I admire, is just someone who's can like, just to have a vision is easier said than done. A lot of people assume that they know what they want, but once you start digging, you see it's very shallow. They don't really have much of a, it's just an idea roughly, but
Yeah,
like, it's very often it doesn't develop into a clear vision. Um, So yeah, I think he's definitely like a CEO type of mentality,
Yeah, 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 sure.
and I think that, right now Gracie Barra is become so big around the world, and there's definitely people who support them. There's definitely people who want to. Whenever you get big, you're gonna also have people who they're gonna project their insecurities or shortcomings
Yeah,
onto you to try and um, get some of that light. So it's undeniable. Like it's impressive what they've been able to do. You know what I mean? Like there was no sport jiu-jitsu in America.
yeah, bro.
Now it's like most people that come to the school are now looking to become better grapplers more than looking for self-defense. It seems like
Yeah, by
there
a
was no
lot.
sport. Now there's a sport. People are coming looking for that. So he's kind of the guy I think at the
The
he's done
helm.
yeah he's done a lot to to get things to where they are. It's crazy just to see what it's turned into. That little room, which was the IBJF. Now IBJF is pretty much all over the
Yeah,
globe. Uh,
yeah. No, it's
uh,
huge. It's huge.
yeah, it's impressive.
Now we just had the World Championships over the weekend. I didn't see it. I saw clips and things like that. Were you able to see much of it? And what are your thoughts about how much jujitsu has like the comp scene, whether it's intensity, whether it's numbers of magnitude? Like, tell me about like what excites you about what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know what to make of it. I think ultimately having a sport tradition, an outlet to go and compete, we wouldn't be anything without it. It's important. Uh, so especially, for self-defense, like people can argue about sport jiu-jitsu techniques, being suited for
Or
self-defense or
whatever.
not, but getting ready for the competition and dealing with your own mind and dealing with, fatigue and um, all the different elements that make you tough, make you hard to kill, like dealing with your sympathetic nervous system, so by default, like I think it's important, very important part of our tradition, but at the same time, it's always been a complicated relationship, it seems like, with interpreting it, like what rule sets are the best? Is the essence being lost? It's like a
Yeah.
never-ending discussion. And I just had a match. One of my students was competing yesterday and
Mm.
or 2 days ago, and this experience I think is interesting. Like, uh, obviously, I'm biased. I want my student to win, but
Of course.
my student had a 8-minute match, and in the end of the match, he was mounted on top of his opponent. He had like advanced position, he like passed the
Right.
guard, get to the mount, and the other person um, had one leg lock entry that was quickly neutralized, but because he had a submission attempt, technically, that's the only reason why I would assume that like they were basically like my student lost the decision.
You got the nod in the decision based off the leg lock attempt,
Yeah.
but not the positional dominance was not given equal weight.
Yeah, so that's the point where I think is interesting, because the way I was introduced to sport jiu-jitsu was you are going to get rewarded for things that would have value in a real fight. If you can take someone down, you're going to get 2 points typically.
Right.
If you can advance past their legs and neutralize the power of their legs, past the guard, that's good in the fight. You don't want to get kicked in the face.
Right.
That's and then the mount or taking someone's back, you get the most points because in the fight, that's the most dominant position. But
Period.
now with there's seems to be a tournament every weekend, and it's very common for people to have their own take on the rules and this and that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
um,
noticed.
when
Yeah.
someone says like sport jiu-jitsu, I don't think it always means the same thing. So
No, it doesn't. It absolutely does not. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I agree. I agree. Yeah, that's
yeah. So
interesting.
that's where I feel like not to make excuses, but just to like it's it could be deceiving. I could be winning tournaments without developing anything that's gonna carry over into a fight. I know that sounds crazy, but
No, it's true.
if I can win matches on technical strategy and you know win by a hair, you know what I mean, get an advantage here and there, and I can become a champion. But it if now I went to MMA, would my jiu-jitsu
Man,
be transferable? Uh, so that's where I just for my I don't like to each their own. For my at my school, I I encourage students to take part in all the tradition. If someone wants to compete, they don't want to compete MMA. But ultimately, I think at the end, like there is a combat essence to all of this, that just got, can't completely forget about it.
no, I
It's
agree. I
so the
agree.
sport it'll help you with it, but depending how you play the sport, I think it'll help you more or less.
No, I agree. I agree. Now, what do you think? And I think this is kind of related. Like, how has BJJ changed since you started training for the better or the worse? Like, what do you think is better, and what do you think is worse? And it can be any aspect of it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Um, and that's a good question. Man, that's a good question. I have to think about that a little bit more.
Yeah, no
Uh,
worries. No worries. We can come back to that.
a
We can
good
come.
one.
And so, like, what are your current goals in jujitsu as a teacher? And also as jujitsu relates to personal development, this podcast is about jujitsu, but it's also about philosophy. And so, you know, um, it's about any philosophy, right? Any good idea that's helping things work, whether it's a technical thing, perspective, whether it's a philosophical thing, a guiding principle. Like, what would you say some of your current goals are, as a teacher, and in regards to like either your own personal development or personal development of your students?
Yeah, so like at the moment, I've been focused on developing my community in a way where it manages itself,
Mm,
and that involves um, organizing all of my research um, in an effort to if right now like I have students that are incentivized to teach at the school, but now what are they teaching?
right,
I got to have material that's going to be available to them. So like this is what I've been doing recently is just trying to figure out like what is a blue belt?
right.
What are the standards? And let's all get on the same page on you
What we're
know
looking for.
yeah, and then also to communicate to the students like what is that path of progression? What is this idea of like communication and expectations are usually the reasons why our relationships thrive or they fail because of, you
Yeah,
know, lack
agree.
of communication or unrealized expectations, et cetera, all that. So currently, that's what I've been focused on, and that also involves like revisiting my ideas to make sure I'm not just, just regurgitating
Recapturing.
something
Yeah,
that's, you know, I learned and accepted as fact without taking a deeper look. So I just constantly revisiting everything that I'm preaching to make sure that it's not turning into what is it, cognitive dissonance. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at currently is just kind of polishing up my curriculums, polishing up my um, policies, procedures at the school, and trying to have a balance of structure and flexibility. For example, in the past, if you ask me, what does someone need to know to be a blue belt? I may have made a list of techniques. And then over the years, you start to see people can get pretty good at demonstrating techniques they have no faith or ability to execute in real time under stress. So, like, is
That's
that the
true.
way?
That's really true.
Yeah, and then so what is the way if it's giving them a list of techniques to pair it? That doesn't work out so well. Like, what is the way? And you're starting to see now this term ecological approach thrown used a lot more often these days.
Yeah.
Um, so like these are the things that I think in my position, instinctively, I think most of us are just gonna do what we were taught to do or what we've
Yeah.
been doing. But when new research comes, new information comes, I think it's a healthy practice to kind of just
Say it.
try to, yeah, put the bias on the side and see. Like I honestly, I really truly believe all of us, we're just researchers. We have these different belts with all these stripes and colors, and then we can start to feel special. But in reality, the ones that bring the most value to the mat are the ones that are like the best researchers, the ones that have been to other research environments and gathered
Yeah.
insights, whether it's tournaments or different schools or uh, traveling to train in different countries,
Yeah.
uh, bringing all that research back to your research center. Um, and some of us are better researchers than others. Some of us are very biased in our
Right.
research, so some of us are non-biased. So some of us are, I don't even think we're conscious that we are a researcher. Like everyone who comes to me is coming with a story. They're coming with their own,
Perceptions.
yeah, and I'm interested to hear, and I learn through that.
Those
So,
are fun. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, right now, like trying to find it, like this ecological approach, I'm a big believer in.
Yeah.
Not an extremist in the sense that like you never have to drill. Like I don't I
Right,
think
right, right.
that's I don't think that's realistic. But
So can I just stop you really quickly because this is a great thing. I'm so glad you brought this up. Because I one uh one there was a podcast where Roger Gracie, who's probably one of the best to ever do it, was talking with Lex Friedman. And Lex Friedman had inquired with him, I think, in that discussion about drilling. And Roger said that he didn't think that drilling was that big of a deal because, in his opinion, the drills don't matter if the opponent is not um, giving 100% because then you're not really doing the move in his perspective. My experience with drilling is I got exposed to it through BJ Penn and JD and his brothers when they lived here and they were training at House. And like I would say around the time BJ had just started to leave House Gracie's is when I started seeing more and more drilling from them. Now they lived near me. I would train with them in this garage at this guy named Alex's house, and we would drill a lot. That was my introduction to drilling. Um, Early days of the UFC. Right. Fast forward, lots of people in the Bay were drilling often, and my instructor Gumby was always using this phrase, drillers are killers. You know what I mean? Because if you had practiced it, then you had all these reps up, whatever. Then I see Eddie Bravo really always talking about reps. You got to get your reps, man. You got to get your reps. And it's real. I believe that, right? But then when I heard Roger, I felt kind of conflicted because obviously he is Roger, right? He's one of the best dudes to ever do it. And so if he's saying that drills don't work, I don't know what to make of that. But I was like, at the end of the day, for me, tell me what you think about this. I was like, why do I like drilling? It took me years to figure out like why do I like drilling? The reason why I like drilling is because let's say we're just looking at an armbar. We're just gonna do armbar from closed guard. For people that are familiar with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, armbar from closed guard is a very kind of introductory move, but it takes a while to get really good at it. Okay. So I have different kinds of drills that I do to teach the armbar. I have an armbar that we do with no hands. So you're on your back, your hands are here, you're not touching the arm. The person's kind of leaning forward more than they would normally be, right? They wouldn't have posture. They're kind of leaning forward as if you had their arm, and I'm trying to teach them the mechanics of moving around their opponent's torso. So they're not just I just have this arm. No, move around the torso to get to where the arm is, right? Then after that, I have a pendulum drill that I have them do, and that's helping them with their timing, right? So we have a technical drill, a timing drill. My belief is when you understand the technique and you understand the sequence of timing, you get to the submission, right? So I believe that the drill gives you presence. If you're asking yourself, am I doing the armbar right? You're probably not. If you're asking, am I doing the armbar right? You're probably not. And that guy's going to probably get out of there. Okay. But if you know I'm doing the armbar right, and then his shoulder shifts, he elevates or crunches down or whatever, the muscle memory that has given you the presence becomes the cornerstone of adaptability. So now when the guy does shift, he turns, he tries to lift. You can go, oh, he's elevating. I can respond like this, or I can respond like that, or I can adapt like this or that, or turn the armbar into a sweep because he negated it. But that's why I like drilling. Um, does that make sense to you? And what's your perspective on drilling in that regard?
Yeah, I think like right now, just from what I'm observing, is like with the term ecological approach that's being
Yeah.
used now more often is there's now some voices that would make a statement that like there's no use for drilling at all. Like that
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with. Like I actually I don't think it's possible. Like I don't think someone can become a grappler at a high level without ever drilling a move once. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna you it's at some point you're gonna get a rep in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
now as far as like to what degree is it gonna take up like 100% of my training time just doing drilling, or is it gonna take
Right, right, right.
50%? Like I would be more on the side of less and more ecological approach or grappling games or
Mm-hmm.
positional sparring,
Mm-hmm.
having the person deal with resistance. I believe grappling is like an exchange of energy. You know, you're
Yeah.
pushing, pulling, and that is something that like they have to ride that wave, you know. And when you're
Right.
drilling, there is that energy exchange is not there. You might, and if your drilling partner is not good, you know, you're not going to get anything out the drilling. But
True.
I think like you have to have like a base level of like try this on for size. Like here,
Yeah.
try these mechanics, and then like what you were saying a moment ago about like yeah, every now and then if you want to highlight a very specific concept or part of that technique, I
Right.
think drilling very specific sequences can help.
Mhm.
But I think whenever we make very strong statements of like drilling is worthless, then it gets people to talk, like we're talking now, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
I think for if someone wants to get create a buzz, like that's how we do it. We make very strong, bold statements, but
Yeah.
in reality, like if I think if you go to study the best athletes in history in judo and wrestling and
Yeah.
jujitsu, like they're gonna have some reps in drilling. Like,
There's drills everywhere. Like wrestlers drill all the time. How many times do you drill just the shot with no partner? Then you have your drills with a partner, right? Then you have drills with varying resistance, right? No one, I mean, no one would say that in American wrestling. Yeah, drilling's whack, guys. We're gonna get rid of it. You
yeah.
wouldn't. I don't even know what you would do in practice. If you did, if you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
and then the other thing is, how do you describe the ecological methodology to people that don't know what it is? So, like, if someone's listening and they're hearing about ecological and they don't know what it means, what is it?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a better definition than I can give. In my mind, it's ultimately grappling games, or developing skills through games. If
Right,
if if you put someone to spar, just like, hey, 5 minutes, you guys spar, you can get a value from it, but there's no guarantee that any specific skill set will uh, it's get focused on to get developed. So, for
right,
example, here's one ecological game I think I see a lot of value in when I have students that never wrestled before. Takedowns is obviously there's a learning curve, and people get this like uh, fearful feeling of walking on
Right.
eggshells. They don't know what might get thrown at them from where. So if we just have them start wrestling from the feet, like that can be a disaster. So giving them a game of like, can you pick up a single leg, or can you body lock your opponent, or put him into a front headlock? Basically, can you get past his arms to get to his body? And if you
Mm,
can, you lock your hands 3 seconds, that's done. So they're getting
right.
used to hand fighting. They're getting used
Right.
to now moving with base and balance and competing without the risk of falling,
Right, right, right. We're
without the
just getting to
anxiety.
this place. We're just getting to
Yeah.
this place.
And
Now,
if I can't do that, I'm sorry, if I can't do that, if I can never successfully hand fight past your hands,
mhm,
am I really gonna hit a takedown? You know what I mean?
right? Yeah, 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 yeah.
The
Yeah.
winning
Can
the
I
hand
even
fight
be
the good
present?
fight.
Right? Can I be present? Right? To
Yeah.
even know what's next. No, I think that's great. And so that actually I like it a lot. I wanted to ask you, so like in that particular game, um one, and I'm asking because I'm curious. I'm excited about it. Are you asking the student to pick up one leg or just get a hold of both? Or is it only upper body? Or are those different games? Like we'll do one game for the legs, one game for the upper body, or does it matter?
Yeah, that's what about that's what I like about the ecological approach is you can create so many variations of the game determining depending on like what exactly we're trying to improve on. So
Right.
for that game in particular, you know, I explain to the students that, grappling is a balance of like it's upper body and lower body. And if I can snap you down, I've got your upper body, right? Your head and shoulders. But if I can't snap you down because your posture is upright and you're
Hmm.
standing upright, then your legs become a little more accessible. If I
Hmm.
if I go to reach for your legs and you sprawl your leg back, then your head becomes
Head
more
and arms
accessible.
become more accessible. Right.
So there's a constant,
Back and forth.
yin and yang,
Yeah.
inside, outside, up and down, and
Yeah.
so if they're attacking, basically the way we play the game is like you just gotta lock hands. Get your gable grip, get your any type of grip
S grip or whatever. Right.
around their body. You get
Yeah.
get to the limbs, I'm sorry, I mean get to the legs, get to the hips, get to the head. Um, but immediately they start to feel like the hands are giving me problems, the hands are blocking me, people are starting to underhook me, and
Yeah.
uh, and someone who's never grappled before, they can do that pretty quick. They can start to get the
Right.
positive feedback of like, hey, I can stop this guy. He's not getting behind me so easily. He's not hugging my hip so easily. And but if you put that same person to spar and he gets his soul crushed, you know what I mean? Like he's not coming
That's
back.
not cool.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think the ecological approach, like I don't agree with these mainstream voices that are making those statements of like there's no need for drilling. No, I think like there's a need for drilling, but I'm very excited about this research that's being developed in front of our eyes. There's more people contributing to these. They're sharing the different grappling games now
Yeah.
because of the ecological wave,
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it. I do believe this is the best way of getting better is like having fun playing games. Bruce Lee was talking about this stuff, like a game, the fight is like a game. It's like a play,
Yeah.
but it's uh, played seriously. And um, I think like going back to the ego, very easily it could be me versus you versus me, you
Mhm.
know, you the black belt versus this guy, the blue belt or purple. It
Right.
becomes ego. Having playing grappling games, the ecological approach, I think, is one of the best ways to remove your ego from it in the sense that now I'm not thinking about expectations of me beating you. No, it's like, how well can you play this game that I'm really good at?
Right. You know
So
what I
I'm
mean?
involved.
How
Like my
much can
mind,
I learn from you, right? How good you are. Oh, so you're going here than there, right? And then it's not like they're beating me. right? It's like, oh, you're doing this to get to, like, now I get it, right? Oh, and this I could do this to stop it, or that's
Mhm.
a bad way to try and stop it.
Yeah, because I think anytime the mind focuses on things that does not have control over, it starts to be you're not in a flow state. The ego is starting to be more influential. But if I can if we're sparring and my mind is thinking about like, man, look at this guy's ears. Where did he grapple? He must have been grappling his whole life. Like I can't control that. And if I think about that, I'm not going to compete well. I'm
Right,
gonna,
right, right.
I'm not in a flow state if my mind is thinking about things that I have no
Action.
control over.
Yeah.
But if my mind can be busy on like playing a game of like, hey, I need inside control. Let me get my hands on the inside. Like then I'm not thinking about me versus you. I
I,
don't have the weight of expectation on my shoulders, So I think this is part of our development. Like we get some level of ability, and then we perform well against some people, and then sometimes like, man, how come I couldn't perform well against this guy? And a lot of, sometimes it's the mindset going into the battle. So I think ecological approach is just you're more in line to be engaged with your work, because your mind is being conditioned to play games in every scenario. Every position has its I have a default setting I can try to
right.
you know, chase.
You know what's interesting, man, is I've been, recently I've been talking a lot about how, in my estimation, one of the reasons that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, grappling, and MMA have just really surged past other traditional martial arts is because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, traditionally taught, uses a very Socratic approach, right? I am in the mount. If I'm here, right, I can hit this person, they cannot hit me. That gives me access to their arms, neck, da 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 da. So here's a cross choke. We're talking about in the gi, right? So here's a cross choke, and let's say here's an Americana, right? Just two techniques. So this person who has never done it before will say, well, um, I was trying that, but it wasn't working. Well, why wasn't it working? And you kind of go through, oh, but your elbow wasn't really there, or you weren't really connected to your other wrist the way you thought you were, or you were leaning too far forward, which made your balance, you're easier to offset. Like, it is the most Socratic way of going through what happens or what can happen in a fight. And so that's what I think, like, as opposed to, like, let's say, like, traditional judo, or even karate or whatever. Like, you have to do these moves exactly as we say. Okay, here's your black belt, right? Like, you're being taught the why, and then both the teacher and the student have to kind of go down this wormhole to mutually troubleshoot. My arms aren't as long as yours. This guy has big shoulders and neck. Well, how do I can't get the guillotine if his neck is like that? Well, then, we can make this adaptation. I think part of what has happened, as true as I believe that is that now, like everything else, how individuals learn is evolving, right? So just like, it's only been in recent years. Like when I was going to school in the 70s, bro, you either got your A's and B's or you got F's, and it was like you're out. Now, right? They say, oh, this kid learns more from audible stuff. This kid learns more from doing. This kid learns from books. Everybody doesn't learn the same. It wasn't like that. I feel like a lot of what we're experiencing in jujitsu around, oh, ecological sucks, drilling's no good. No, we got to drill. No, we got to do it exactly the way it was done when Elio taught us back in 75. And it's like, no, dude, like, all of it matters. Like, if
Mhm.
if we have different ways of learning math, how can we not have different ways of learning jujitsu?
Mm.
How,
Yeah.
I, such a, I would say that jujitsu is arguably as equally potentially infinite as mathematics.
Mm.
It's almost as equally potentially infinite. And so, if we're talking about a potentially infinite, ungraspable thing, why would I only say this method is the only way when we already know in every other way that we learn, humans prefer and benefit more when we can learn differently, right? So, like, when I was spending a lot of time in the UK, I was talking to this guy. He's a professor now, Professor T, over at this school called GBRL in Leeds. And it was when the ecological stuff was super in the beginning, and we were kind of like, I don't think either one of us had seen enough of it to, to have an opinion. But I was like, I mean, if it's drills based and whatever, I was like, ultimately, the best jujitsu will not be dedicated to either methodology, but will be a balance of both and maybe a third element, right? So maybe the future of jujitsu is warm ups are ecological, technical instruction with the Socratic method for half an hour and then half an hour of sparring, right? So that like we've got some ecological, like opening the mind, we're having to game things. Okay, this is the actual move of the day or the theme for the week, and then full blown sparring so that you're getting, a full pendulum swing of experience. I think stuff like that will probably be what the future of jujitsu um, teaching becomes, because the thing that confused me about the ecological thing, and I'm still new to it, so I'm glad we're talking about it, is I didn't understand how a person coming up in a pure ecological way. I mean pure, in a purely ecological way. How do I know that you're a blue belt? How do I know that this person's a purple belt? How do I know? Or at least like when you said like before, if you said what is a blue belt, you would have this list of techniques. But then you recognize these techniques may not necessarily be executable by this person in live sparring. So like I couldn't fathom how a person raised on an ecological way from the beginning would know when they are a blue belt or estimate that they're a blue belt. And I didn't know what their teacher would assume. How do you interpret that based off what you know off the ecological stuff? And I'm asking because I'm
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually about to launch this new standards of the path of progression, and this is I'm pretty much in it right now. Like,
yeah, yeah.
so this question that you asked, here's my here's how I'm planning to roll out this new these new like performance standards. So again, like if someone can demonstrate a list of moves, but they cannot actually perform under stress, then I'd rather have someone be successful under stress and not be able to, demonstrate what they did. I know that can be debated, but I think ultimately, like, results matter.
Yeah.
And like, so here's what the standards are. And I think it's actually something that people can start to test themselves. Uh,
Mm.
so here's the standards. Number one, pin escapes. If there's a white belt in your class that you can't escape their mount, you can't escape their side mount. You had 60 seconds to escape and you couldn't. Um, well, that's a sign that we're maybe not ready for the blue belt just yet. Like we want to have,
That's fair.
you know,
That's fair.
So if I'm a white belt listening to this podcast and I want to, test myself, if you can get as many of your training partners to stay after class or meet you before class and have one of them hit the timer and let's see if you can escape, their pins 60 to 90 seconds, extend it to 90 seconds. If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't get out within 90 seconds, like, okay, we have to look under the hood. So
yeah.
pin
Yeah.
escapes is like the foundation. And
Yeah.
then as far as guard, like this is another thing that I've struggled over the years of like putting a list of techniques because it's so personal. We can have totally different styles of guard and both be effective. So I don't want to make someone regurgitate my style of guard just for the sake of, it's my favorite and that's my standard. So
Yeah.
here's what the standards are. If you're on the bottom, can you manage distance? Can you govern distance? So if I put your five white belts one by one, they're going to start behind your feet. That's your long range guard. They can't grab your head. They're behind your feet. Now, if they get in front of your feet, you can recruit your knees. They still can't grab your head. You're still not chest to chest with you. The game is like, do not allow that top person to take space and get chest to chest. So you
Right.
can play any guard
Yeah.
you want. I don't care about with the
Yeah.
guard type
Open,
as long as
close. Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, as long as you don't allow that top person to steal that space and get chest to chest. If they get past your knees, you want to play half guard, you got your underhook, great. That's as long as they're not chest to chest and you're pinned on the ground. So now we're going to flip that. For you as a guard passer, I don't care about any specific guard passes. I'm more concerned about your ability to take space when you're on top. Can you get past the feet? Can you get
Mm-hmm.
past the knees? Can you
Mm-hmm.
get chest to chest? Or if he turtles chest to back? And
Right.
if you can do that against any white belt in your class, you can consistently take their space. Like this is starting to lay the foundation for any guard passing archetype you want to become, any guard playing archetype you want to become. Like this is the foundation of either you're effective or not. Can you govern distance on the bottom when you're on the
Right.
bottom? And can you, go, take space when you're on top? And then as far as offense, like even that, man, it's very personal. There's a lot of submissions people can become specialists in. I don't want to prioritize one over the other. What I want to prioritize is how well can you get behind your opponent's elbows? So you can use an arm drag to do that. You can do so many
Right.
different techniques to get behind, but this
Right.
is, you can make an argument. This is the number one rule in martial arts. Don't let someone get behind you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Period.
Like, so now if offensively, I can get behind the elbows if I'm playing close guard. I can get behind the elbows if I'm playing half guard. I can get behind the elbows if I'm standing in front of somebody. I can get behind the elbows if I'm in snap someone down to the ground in front of headlock. I got to run behind their elbows to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like this milestone of a transition, I think an average student shows up to and they don't know what the priorities are. They get a million moves to interpret, but they're not all the same. Certain milestones are very valuable. Anytime you can get behind your opponent's elbow, that's like the center line principle. If I get my
Totally.
elbow past my belly button, I'm taking
Yeah.
it back. So I think if we give our students these milestones to chase, they'll be more hungry for techniques that will help them achieve the milestones. But if they're doing techniques with no really understanding of the value of the milestone of, like, hey, it's a big deal. You get behind someone's elbow, you're immediately
Lot. Yeah. A lot of
in a
opportunity.
safer
You're right.
position in a fight, right? Yeah, you got their back. So these are things that if I had someone demonstrate a bunch of techniques and I say like, hey man, they're not up to standard,
Right.
there's room for them to assume that's subjective, you know.
Mm.
But if this is performance based, like it is what it is, man. Like
You can't get behind the elbows. So what's happening? Right.
yeah, so yeah, the entitlement for that sometimes starts to develop in students, like and they should. I mean, I think they're more worthy of feeling entitled if they can accomplish those things, like so I think it gives them a sense of direction, and it doesn't. Yeah, like there's a mix with being able to explain something, to show something, to demonstrate something. Definitely, there's value in that. But then I think it would be a shame if I can explain everything, but I just can't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
That.
yeah. No, 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 no. And that's a big deal, right? Like when I'm talking with my students, sometimes depending on what the module is, I'll show a move and I'll say like, I'm showing you this move. This isn't what I do, right? Like I'm showing you this move. This is what I do this because for my body type, da da da, I tend to be here. So my scissor sweep is not like the regular scissor sweep, right? I use a different variant that most people teach later. Like the regular scissor sweep, how your heel will be outside of their knee, right? And you kick them over, right? So I never do that because I started being a lot smaller than my opponents and I couldn't kick them over. Even sometimes if I was loading and even if that timing was right, I was 165 at that time. If they were 210, 215, I couldn't always move them. So instead, I would stay on my side, but I would use, the variant where you put your foot in front of their knee and you kick
Mhm,
the knee out,
mhm,
right? by kicking the knee out, I always got them over. So then I was like, well, why am I even bothering switching to the second sweep when the second sweep should be the first?
Hmm.
Because I can't get the heavier people over, right?
Hmm.
And so I will show both, but explain why I do the one that I do. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of times people be like, oh, well, he's not doing the scissor sweep right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's got a 20-pound weight difference and he should be kicking the knee. He shouldn't be tr trying to force himself to do the one that's harder. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be trying to do the one that's harder.
You know
Um,
I'm forgetting where I heard this now.
mhm.
Unfortunately, I don't know where. Um, but I thought this was a profound statement. This instructor said, he goes, when we teach solutions to problems that people have never encountered, they don't really process it the same as when they have encountered a problem and then you offer them the solution to it. You know what I mean?
It's real. It's real. You're like when someone's got you here and you're like, I've never even been there, right?
Yeah.
They haven't been smashed like that. So it's like, yeah, okay. But if you put them there a few times or you've observed them there, then you're like, yeah, so when that guy's on your neck like that, you're gonna wanna, right? Then they're like, got it. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know like going back to the ecological approach, I think as instructors, like something you said earlier about like we have it all like it's all these are all like as instructors these are all the tools we have in our toolbox. Like we might need more drilling, we might need more ecological. I'm not
Right.
gonna limit myself. They're all tools, but I think with something that's unique about having people play games with resistance is like you start to lead them into those scenarios where they have to encounter the problem. Like for example, here's one game that I find a lot of value in for helping getting the students more comfortable with takedowns and wrestling. I'll
Okay.
start them off in a front headlock. Okay.
Right.
So now, usually people they think a front headlock is a guillotine choke, right? They're like
Right.
that's like the first thing people think of is like
Right.
hey, choke them, and it's an option, but the front headlock is a position
It is
that
a position.
and it has
100%.
to be maintained if like if I want to have a good front headlock system, like controlling the position is very important. And you'll see, I think a million times you probably saw like white belts, blue belts, all types. They don't really even know what they're trying to do when they have a front lock. They don't know if they're trying to control or if they should go for the submission. There's like a
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and sometimes going for the submission too early is the reason why you lost it all. So like here's the game. I'm going to put you in a front headlock, and
Right.
my objective is to see how long I can just maintain this position, and if I can cause you to put your hands on the floor, I win.
Mm.
And now all you have to do is like peel your hands off, peel my hands off, and just go to a
Maintain.
vertical posture.
Right. And get up.
Just vertical posture. You're starting like this, carrying my weight.
Right.
If I can do that well, I'll cook you there. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
you'll depletion principle. You'll
Yeah.
exhaust
We'll
someone
kick in
there.
for sure.
But if you're unable to control the position, that's
Bang.
your metric. If they return to vertical posture, like it's gone.
He's like, that's your metric.
And then
Yeah.
we switch. And then we can
Yeah.
play this like, and let me give you one quick example. I remember when I had this gym teacher called Mr. Francis when I
Mhm.
was like first grade. Like this guy was and we didn't deserve this guy. This guy was a genius. This guy had the most defined Adam's apple I've ever seen. Like
He was
no,
just,
no body fat. Like he was teaching us how to check our pulse when we're like in first grade. He's giving us
that's
all like
hilarious.
he's giving us all this important information, but
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
time we're all looking like, man, we got 10 minutes left. I want to play some games, man. Like we're trying to play basketball. This guy's talking about checking our pulse. We're not trying to hear all that.
Right.
And it reminded me about the ecological approach. Like, man, that's also like as far as retention and having people
Mm.
return, they need some physical stimulation. If we're
Yeah.
just teaching them and stimulating the mind, it's not the same experience. So I think
No.
ecological approach is making teaching jujitsu a lot easier.
Yeah. And it's more fun for the teacher and for the
Yeah.
student. right? For the
And then
teacher.
and then now through those games, when they clearly realize like I cannot untangle myself out of this front headlock, okay, I'm going to show you the technique now.
Yeah.
Now it's like let's
Yeah,
show now you're
yeah,
all
you
your
use the games to open the door to the technique instead of just
Mhm.
throwing the technique at them straight
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
That's dope. That's
Mhm.
dope. Now, here's one thing. I'm glad you brought up this thing about wrestling. So I'm gonna give you two questions, and I realize that each is gonna have their own thing. I was speaking yesterday with one of my friends named Professor Billy Ray Chubbs. He's a heavier dude. He's a big dude, strong dude, and um we've been talking about this whole idea of like to what degree do you try to add wrestling to your game? Meaning, like, even though he's a bigger dude, he was always more of a guard puller, right? He was always more of a guard puller. He has good sweeps, good submissions, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. So since he's become a black belt, he's been working more on wrestling. But I think that gradient is so steep, right? He's not the wrestler he was hoping he has been. And so we were like, well, you know what? He's like, I'm thinking I'm gonna go do more guard pulling and just kind of getting back to that thing because it is a good fire base for me. It is a good wrestling, a good place for me to do stuff and not get countered in my wrestling, not, you know what I mean? Be less impactful on my feet. And so I said, one of the things that I'm having problems with right now, and I don't mean problems, I mean like I'm observing it and it's not like cool to me, is more and more I'm seeing people be like, oh, guard pulling sucks. You shouldn't be on your back, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm like, to me, that seems like the wrestleification of jujitsu. I'm not a wrestler. I'm a jujitsu guy. So yeah, I might pick a leg up and dump you. I might get double unders, get right here and hit you with the old Tito Ortiz foot sweep, right? Or I might do some old Camarillo foot sweep with the gi. But I'm a jujitsu player, and that means if I'm having questions about my ability to take you down, if I know you're way bigger than me, or if I know I don't even want to have a wrestling or judo battle with you, I'm gonna pull guard. I'm gonna pull guard. And I'm gonna pull guard because my guard is good. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mind, right? And I know, you want to traditionally we know you want to be on top, you want to stay on top, blah blah blah, whatever. That's fine. But like I don't like the wrestleification of jujitsu. I want jujitsu to stay jujitsu. I love and respect wrestling. But if you think that pulling guard sucks so bad, go wrestle. Then don't bother with jujitsu. Like, what do you think about those kinds of discussions and those kinds of problems? What does a guy like Megatron do? Does he just say, okay, forget it, I'm just going to walk the hard path of wrestling or judo? Or does he just go to what his default setting is because he knows he can impose it better? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have a particular outlook on this. Like,
Okay.
um, I think, man, a, a lot of it returns to things we've spoken about, offline of
Yeah.
like, we talk about ego a lot and like I see like a lot of times in myself and others, I see that like when we first start something, tend to be tribal with it. Like I remember when I started to train jiu-jitsu, my mindset was like, man, this stuff is by far the best, and everything else is just not this,
Right,
you
right, right,
know, and just different degrees of like not this, but
right,
like
right, right.
only this matters, everything else is like whatever. But then as I'm starting, year by year, the path of mastery, it's up, it's down, you start to see things differently over the years. And the way I see things today is like I'm a lot less like I have one tattoo on my body. It's a jujitsu tattoo. Like I
Yeah, you
was,
got the old school Gracie
yeah,
Baja with the Tasmanian devil. That's OG right there. If you see the
but
Tasmanian in the tribe,
yeah, I bring that up to just mention like I was very, very
you were all in.
tribal. Yeah, like, and tribal to the sense of like I think we limit ourselves. Like if I'm tribal in if I just become a supremacist and whatever I am, I'm this color and
Right,
only this
right,
color matters and everything like
right.
everything else is second or
Par.
then life is different, right? Like the life is gonna be different. And I think with martial arts and our development, same thing. Like the more I'm just like jiu-jitsu is all I need, then I limit myself from growing as a martial artist because I that's how I see myself more now as definitely like thank God for jiu-jitsu, thank God for the Gracie
Yeah, yeah,
family.
yeah. No
That's
doubt.
the foundation.
Right,
Um, and through that foundation, I realized, what like my understanding of yin and yang. You know, there's grappling and there's striking, and
right.
both effective. They both have
Yeah,
a track record of success. Um, and now, when I look into like, okay, let me put the striking on the shelf. Let's look at the grappling. If I just know how to attack lower body submissions, then I'm a leg locker, right?
right,
If I know how to just attack upper body submissions, then I'm the triangle guy. I'm the
right,
armbar guy.
right, right,
And
right.
20 years ago, that's pretty much what you saw. Hey, there's the leg
That's true.
locker. There's the triangle guy. But
That's true.
today, now they're hybrid guys. Now,
Yeah.
when someone escapes the upper body submission, they immediately attack the
You
lower
go
body
straight.
submission. So, like
Yeah.
as grapplers, they became more complete in that sense.
Agreed.
And so I think the same extends to all the wrestling. Like, if I can develop a guard, uh, man, I think the memes that make fun of guard players are my favorite memes. They're hilarious. I'm a guard player,
They
but
are. Me too.
they're,
Me too.
they're so funny, man. And but I think that's like some people will interpret that differently. Like if I'm just coming to jujitsu and I see these memes of making, I might take that serious and be like, yeah, guard pulling is for sissies. But
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah.
start to compete and you start wanting to win, you start to realize like, well, all the world champions have that tool in their toolbox. And like I think you mentioned a moment ago, like strategically, if I got a guy in front of me who's an Olympic wrestler, pulling guard neutralizes all his his life's work. So
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but don't get me wrong, my ego would want me to believe that I'll put him on his back, no problem. I'll take him down, and I'll be
Right,
beautiful
right.
if I can. But realistically, I would like to have all the tools in my toolbox. You know what I mean? If I need them.
Yeah,
I think
dude.
like if I don't do any type of wrestling or if I don't work on my standing grappling, then just by default I'm like a shell of I'm
Half the grappler.
incomplete, just like we would consider a wrestler to be incomplete if he doesn't know submissions or doesn't have a guard. So
Right.
I think like I think it's all I think like we're video game characters with different attributes that we have the ability to adjust those settings.
Yeah, and reset, be like more striking, more grappling, right? More.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because like I definitely have an arsenal of like probably like 5 takedowns that are a mix of judo and wrestling. And so if I'm going against a judo guy, he's gonna get wrestled. If I'm going against a wrestler, he's probably gonna get judoed. You know what I mean? I'm gonna invert their grappling intention. You know what I mean? But if those things won't work, I'm pulling guard. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah, yeah.
pulling guard. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and like this way of thinking, I started to see that like as martial artists, we're tapping into the same principles. A boxer who knows how to manage distance, that's what they were saying about Muhammad Ali, right? Float like a butterfly, sting like a
Mhm.
bee. They're talking about distance management. As a guard player, I understand how important distance management is. If I'm not careful, the guy's gonna make me carry all his weight. So,
Yeah.
and then I also in life, you start to see like, man, distance management between certain people is healthy for you too, or distance
Hey,
management when
real
I ride my
life.
like so basically like if I was just super tribal, I don't think I would see um that we're all one,
Hey, bro. It's
right?
deep, right? Because you can have all of this like expansive discussion to come back to what? We're
One.
all one. After all of that. I mean, and that's what I love, right? Like that's the stuff that makes this game, this path. I feel so lucky to be alive right now because I was telling my man Professor Dorian over at Half Gracie yesterday. I said, "Can you imagine as much as we love fighting and jujitsu? I mean, I said like, what if we were just born in the 30s?
Mm,
Oh, no, I just gotta just boxing and like and that's no disrespect to boxing. I'm just
mm,
talking about like how much martial arts, all
mm,
sports are better faster, easier to learn, more understood, right? Like we are lucky that we are alive right now. Watching world championships, da da da, CJI, da 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 da, right? Like Polaris Pro, right? Like ADCC, like all of it is just amazing, and we get to just to observe it, let alone get to be black belts, get to participate, get to coach, get to whoa, man, like this is great, right? To help people have these experiences that also excite us. I mean, back to the one, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad. And, yeah, I think the researchers are more connected than ever before. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now here's something that I talk about all the time. Um, this is the other part after the rest. Gi or no gi? Do you have a
Mm.
preference?
Yeah,
One more effective at making you a better whole self-defense human, I guess.
you know, I I was always subscribing to the gi makes you better,
Yeah,
like from day one,
yeah,
because that's also what was
the
I was
dogma.
told. And then that's also what early uh performance was indicating,
Yeah,
who guys who are winning.
mellow.
Yeah, and but I recently heard someone make a statement that they just completely they challenged that completely. They said the opposite. They said actually no, no gi makes you better because the gi you have unrealistic uh um how did he state this? He said basically like sometimes the grips themselves can give you a unrealistic sense of how to manipulate the body. But long story short, like I think if I have a black belt tomorrow and someone wants to roll with him with the gi on, I wouldn't want him to have an excuse of like, oh, I don't do that. Like, no, if the guy wants to grapple with the gi on, put the gi on. If he wants to take the gi off, take the gi off. If he wants to grapple with strikes, grapple with strikes. Like adaptability is what is important because if we get married to one and then we build our whole identity based off the rules or the tools that are might not be there, that's and then we don't have the ability to adapt. This is a problem. So if someone wants to reach the highest level, they will have to marry one or the other typically, like because economy of training. But ultimately, I think as a black belt, I don't necessarily desire for my students to be um like
One trick ponies.
yeah, exactly. Like I'd rather
Extreme,
have like
back to
just
the
have a
extremism, right? Back
yeah,
to the extremism, right? Like that we need a moderate approach to how we want to be grapplers, right? Like obviously 10th planet and the whole takeoff there and lots of other no gi expressions that are really profound and beautiful and impactful that work, right? Okay. But like I tell my students all the time. I said, look, when I came up with how, like the class was in the gi, but if you sat around or if he invited you after, people would take the gi off. There'd be some no gi stuff, and then there might even be bring the crash pad out, hit some bayanas, slamming fools into the crash mat, right? Getting that, and then there might even be some gloves put on or taparia where you're slapping each other up and like seeing what's possible, right? I
yeah,
said what I learned from that, and then when I left his spot and I went to Charles, Charles was probably one of the first guys in the early days that had gi and no gi classes, right? And so at that time, when I was a blue belt, I was only training probably 2 days a week, and then I just try to drill it home or whatever, right? So I tried to make sure that one was in a gi and one was no gi because the module was the same. So I was like, well, if we're doing arm bars from the closed guard in the gi, I want to see what are the gripping sequences, how are they different, entry grips and exit grips, no gi. And I did that because, and this is what I was telling him, we can have our own attachments to the gi, to no gi, to street fight stuff or to self-defense stuff. But the one thing we will never be in control of is what we or our opponent is wearing on a day when it's real. So I said, "Oh, all I do is I train in the gi." Yeah, well, guess what? It's uh it's it's June in California. and this guy's in a parking lot and he's telling you to move your car or it's fixing to be on, are you going to tell him to put on a jacket? Are you going to be like, well, actually, can I put my jacket on before this begins? No, dog. It's happening on the sidewalk right now. You need to have answers, right? Conversely, if you're just a Nogi guy and I'm in Leeds, UK in November, and the same guy pulls up talking about move your car, I got this big ass jacket on. Guess what? It's a gi. That's a gi. That jacket's a gi to me. That's what I
Mhm.
see. So because you don't have control over the scenario you'll find yourself in, you should have a balanced sense of training. Because when I'm grappling, I don't go, oh, he took his jacket off. I don't know where I'm gonna grab. I don't, what do I do? I already know what I'm gonna do. My attack themes and my paths are almost the same gi and no gi. It's only because I understand the grip sequence and where I want to be and how to manage those distances that it's a thing. So I think that attachment to either is where you find yourself in danger.
Yeah, I think like if we I would assume most people would agree. Like if we remove our bias, we can agree that having takedowns, for example, is like it's a good skill to have, right? We can call it wrestling, judo, but like I think at the core of it, we're talking about like putting another person down, and I think if someone doesn't have that ability, then they're limited. They're not complete. And just like we were talking about earlier, same thing. The opposite is true. If there's a guy who can put you down, but he doesn't know how to fight off his back, well, if we're honest, we'll just say, well, he's incomplete. He'd be better if he can do both.
Right.
And I think as far as the gi is concerned, I would throw that in there as this. It's another unique skill set of learning how to deal with grips, and depending on who you are, what your goals are, that might be a more important skill set to you than other people. But like, if you don't know how to deal with grips, you're incomplete. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's real. Period.
so
Period.
I think like just for one reason or another, we might start on the path of martial arts and then like become super tribal about a certain tradition that we're on, and then before you know it, we're just like imposing limitations on ourselves because like we refuse to acknowledge the other,
Yeah. No,
element of
it's
our
for the real.
potential.
No, it's for
So
the real.
it's all good. It's all beautiful. Like in life, and all these things they have so much crossover off the mats. There's a um, yeah, I think it's all like it doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be both. Could be all.
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful perspective. All right.
Different seasons of life, we might prioritize one or the other, different goals, one or the other, but like it's all nice to know.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna run these are just gonna be, kind of like flashcard questions. I'm gonna throw them at you. Just say what the first thing that kind of comes to your mind. All right, all right. So, what's your favorite BJJ documentary or book?
Arte Suave, probably. Arte Suave, the YouTube, it's on YouTube now. That
Yeah.
one comes up right away. There's two of them, one and two, both of them. Um, yeah, equally, I think they're both good. Or man, Gracie in Action, yeah, that's classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, best BJJ advice you've ever received.
I think it was John Danaher's, like what we were talking about earlier about like criteria for blue belt. uh,
Mm,
and having pin escapes being the foundation of that. Um, that's something that I first heard uh, John Danaher
yeah.
um, discuss, and I think there's so much wisdom in that.
No
Embracing the
question.
hardest part of it first, and um, how that will impact your offense. So off the top of my head, that is.
Yeah. No, I
you know,
think that's
Having a sense of direction, priorities,
yeah.
I think that's been very helpful.
What's the worst BJJ habit you had to break within yourself? Like I keep doing X and this is costing me.
It's probably the one that most schools, most people do. Like start when we start sparring on the knees, which it's still to like if you come to my school, you're gonna see that every school I've been to, for the most part, you're seeing that. I don't think that in itself is what's bad. I think what's bad is like uh, not like assuming a connection that will benefit you will form for you. You know, like the best guys are really good at getting that connection whenever they need it.
Mm.
Versus like
That it's not knees or standing, it's knowing the connection needed.
yeah, like for example, I think if you can start standing and then get a grip and pull guard, it's better than just starting on the knees. Because
What? I like that.
yeah, like just the habit of like because I remember that one of the first matches I had at black belt, I remember just doing a deep dive into like what do I really want first? You know, like up until black belt, everything was just impulsive and just like in the
Yeah, yeah,
moment,
yeah.
just like doing just off, you know, uh, it was not really ever any thought behind it. It's crazy sound. But I think basically like when we first start training, I think we're programmed to like obsess over the end result. Look, he made him tap with the arm bar. Show me the choke, show me the arm bar, show me the sweep, show me the cool stuff. But over time, we start to, the longer we're on the mats, we start to get excited about how does it start? Like, how did you
Right.
get the grip, the hand fighting, the grip fighting, things that wouldn't matter much at all to us if it was our first jiu-jitsu class. We'd be more
Yeah.
excited about the
Becomes
choke.
real important.
Yeah, so I think that's where if you just start on the knees and you like you might not be developing that insight. You know what I mean? As to like how what is the grip I build my game off of and how do I set it up? How can I ensure I get that grip whenever I want it? How do I ensure I don't just give him his grip? I think the guy who gets the grip first, you kind of like lead the other person down your street.
True. No
You know,
doubt. No doubt. No doubt. No,
yeah.
I
So
think,
if you lead me down your street and I haven't been there before, you might surprise me. You know.
yeah, it's
Uh,
real.
But that the whoever wins the hand fight, the grip fight, is the one who's leading the other down the street, you know.
I like it.
So
Yeah.
that's what I didn't understand, you know, early on. I just would go with the flow, so to speak. But I think knowing how to get to your connections, you know, without an understanding of connection, you're not effective,
Rest
you
of
know.
it spirals quickly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, before we go, man, I just wanted to get your thoughts on some of the best practices that you think sincere students of any belt level, but specifically like white and black, right? I mean white and blue. Like if they're starting, they're kind of new, early intermediate. Like what are the things that you think are the best practices to capture the most from their classes and where they're at right now?
Yeah, something that I routinely tell my students is like something we talked about. Like, I really believe we all are researchers.
Yeah,
And there's different levels of researchers. Look like there's different levels of scientists, right? Like some
right.
are um, biased, some are unbiased, some are just have more body of work, you know. So um, the students that I have now like 26 years roughly of like seeing the different archetypes of like, you know, who are the ones that tend to get better quicker? Um, what are their habits? The ones that teach for sure, like the practice of like if you can't explain it, then you don't understand it. So the guys who are going towards teaching, it becomes like a forced uh, focus. Like you're just getting more
Right.
focused. But okay, let's say the person is not ready for that yet. There's what can I do as a student? My best students, I see them. This is a normal thing. You'll come to the school and you'll see there's a couple guys already on the mat, and they're going through the same sequence, drilling again, and they know how to turn the intensity up, but getting one get married to one pattern.
Right.
Like this journey is going to be very difficult. It's very confusing. Priorities are going to be, easier said
Myriad
than done.
scattered.
But if you can, if there's one move, maybe it's that sweep, maybe it's a submission, whatever it is, something that you have more research and development into than your classmates, and what if that's accomplished, if like we need a sense of like positive feedback. If I keep showing up to class and just get my ass kicked, excuse my language, I'm less likely to come back. But if I can experience some level of success, um, the likelihood of me coming back to class is increased. So
Higher. Yeah.
we usually all try to get good at as much as we can early on, and then kind of like nothing really stands out.
Right.
But if you get one thing that stands out for you, uh, and it doesn't have to be a technique, it can be a principle. For example, center line principle. Every
Mhm.
time I drag my opponent's elbow past his belly button or my belly button, I get back exposure.
Got
Get good
action.
at that. Just get good at like you know. And then when the person doesn't allow you to take their back because they're resisting, well,
Right.
there you go. There's your system now. Now we
Right.
have a plan B, but the randomness is starting to fade. Like this is all becoming more routine. It's becoming actually something that you're responsible for creating. The game is slowing down now because, well, when everything is random investment,
Right.
it just seems like it's always chaos, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with
No, that's
Donna her said survive, escape, and once you feel like you can survive and escape, I think just one technique, get married to one pattern, you know.
I think that's important. One thing that I started doing this year that others had done, I had never done to this year, and I have found it to be probably the single greatest investment I made in my own learning is journaling, bro. I
Mm.
started journaling about jujitsu. There was a guy from Heroes Martial Arts, Professor Sean Whitmore, and apparently he'd been like every time he grapples, he goes home and he writes about his experiences. He's got volumes of these things. And so my fiance had given me this at the beginning of the year. Um, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna use this as a jujitsu journal." And I like to write haikus, so I put like jujitsu haikus in here, these little poems, right? Because I use my haikus to remember moments, positions, and concepts. So my haikus are never for the sake of themselves. They're usually so I can grasp either what happened in that moment or understand the essence of a principle or something. And I have found writing down, journaling about my jujitsu. Like, yeah, I might observe two people and I see something crazy and I'll just write it down. And I keep,
Mm.
bro, has been like my best thing. My best thing.
I
Because
admire that, man. Yeah.
think about how deeply you think about jujitsu. You're one of the deepest thinkers of jujitsu that I know. Now imagine if you had years of even fragmented documentation
Mm.
and shake that out into things. You know what I mean? So like I'm
Yeah.
really interested.
The little journaling I've done in the past, and I'm embarrassed to say that I'm not the brightest bulb. Trust me. Some people get the different impression. They think, oh, he might be
You're super
smart,
smart. I'm not buying it,
but
bro.
no, trust me, I'm not. Uh, because here's a funny joke about my tribe will probably kick my ass for this, but like there's a funny joke of like if you want to hide something from someone from Montenegro. That's where my wife's from. Yeah,
Yeah.
hide under a shovel because they don't like to work, you know. But then for us, if you want to hide something from a Bosnian, put it under a book because
Yeah. That's hilarious. It'll never.
they don't read.
That's hilarious. No, that's great.
So no,
That's
but I do I totally get it. Like unfortunately, when I dig up my old journals, I can't understand what I was writing. I was like,
oh, that's crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think it all comes down to it's focus. It's a different level of focus, right? Like you're getting something out your mind onto paper, and like that
Yeah.
practice is I think where focus goes, energy flows. It all contributes.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. No, I've found that to be really good. Now, before we go, and this is an important thing, and I actually I messed up because I meant to ask Halleck about this. I didn't. I usually do it almost every interview is, can you tell me about the day you got your black belt, and then did you expect it? Like, did you expect your black belt? Was this like da da da, or was this like I'm getting put in the meat grinder and then they give me a black belt? Like, tell me what that day was like.
Um, I had an idea. It was not clearly communicated, but it was pretty. I had a pretty good idea, and it was Marcio Feitosa came to Chicago, and I remember just when the when you can feel the emotions coming through your neck, and at some point
Yeah,
now you can't stop crying.
yeah,
It was one of those things like start to cry, and um, it's irreversible once it gets to a certain point, and so if you feel I remember feeling a little embarrassed, uh, your heart is open, and um, but I think it's also was probably one of the more special days of my life, and because I think in that moment, all of the journey is like condensed in one moment, and that's what I think causes the emotions. But the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and downs, all the different people, like it all kind of like boom, it kind of just exploded in one moment. Thankfully, there's no video footage of I'm aware of. We're talking about
yeah.
talking about.
That's
So,
great.
so,
That's great,
yeah, that
man.
was good. It was a good moment, and yeah, that's like time flies. That's probably 20 years ago. Is it 2000 and no, no, like 17 maybe, something like that. Yeah, a long
Yeah,
time.
still though, almost 20, man. It's a long time.
Yeah.
It's crazy because specifically for Marcio Feitosa, when I was young and at house, sometimes if you were blessed, somebody would get tapes from Brazil and you could watch tournaments. And obviously, I don't and still don't know Portuguese, but one of the first names I could make out was Marcio Feitosa.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I was like a fan of his for so long, man. Like I still remember when he put out. Do you remember he had this DVD, The Champions of Gracie Baja, and it was a two DVD set, and one was in the gi and one was not in the gi.
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah. Old
like
school.
that I
That was a
felt,
pretty good set too, man. That was some
bro,
good,
that was such a good
really,
set.
yeah, really good
I think
technique.
I think that's still at my parents' house, man. I think that's still at my parents' house. Like I think the gi one is gone, but I think the no gi one is still there, you know? And like I felt like I had access to like FBI files. Like when you're having that DVD, man, like to get your black belt from him, bro, that is incredible, man. That
Yeah,
is
he's been like the whole transition away from Gracie Baja, like that was a business thing that the
right, right,
franchise,
right.
but like Marcio is a very very important person in my life. Like
Yeah.
I remember as a young like as a teenager, he was he was the world champion, and he lived a very like uh, a lifestyle that I felt inspired by. He
Yeah.
was a true athlete. He was disciplined. He was like the ideal teacher, and also just seeing his relationship with Carlos Gracie
Yeah.
Jr. like he's the ideal student, and yeah, just overall good guy. You know.
And that is great, man. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Like, we've known each other for a really long time, but we haven't been able to kick it very much through all these years. And so I'm always grateful for any time we can get on the phone, anytime, I've been, you know, just very appreciative of not just having access to you and your information, but your kindness and your wisdom over the years. You know what I mean?
Likewise, brother. Thank you.
I'm very, very, very appreciative. Um, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Through Downtown Jiu-Jitsu Club. That's my school, downtownjiu-jitsu club.com. We're in Chicago. If you're on Instagram, that's the one social media I'm most active on.
Yeah.
So through those channels are probably the best
Yeah.
ways to get a hold of me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then for your thing in Bosnia, is that sold out? Can people still apply? Like if they want to participate or whatever, where do they
Yeah,
go?
for this year it's sold out, but the plan is to do it every year. So we were doing it in May previous years. It looks like June is going to be, a better time for us moving forward. So hopefully next year, anyone who's interested, next year will be the next opportunity and beautiful place to be. Hopefully get a chance to visit. Hopefully get you there next year.
Hey man, God willing, that would be a beautiful thing. I would love to do it. It would be an honor, high honor. So man, thank you so much. Have a very blessed one, and I look forward to sharing this with people. And I'm very grateful for your time and your wisdom. Okay,
Thank you, brother. Likewise.
all right, man.
Peace,
Thank
brother.
you.